Hey guys, we're back. Like, comment, subscribe. We're doing our last video for the moment on the subject of Trevor Bauer. If you haven't seen the other ones, do check them out. Our video for today, the topic will be if Trevor Bauer does come to the Toronto Blue Jays, does that make them the favorite to win the AL East? What do you think?
It's tough because the AL East is always considered to be the best division in baseball, if not one of the best divisions in baseball, most competitive, especially at the higher end. Like even by bringing in Bauer, they're still getting outspent by almost $100 million to the Yankees. So it's tough. It's very tough. But that being said, though, that team is very good. They're a playoff team last year. The number one contender in that division is definitely the Yankees. Boston had a down year. I think they're going to come up and play much better than they did last year. But of course, they're not to the same level that the Yankees are right now. And Tampa, it looks like they're having more of a rebuilding process right now, which is funny to say because they were in the World Series last year. And the Yankees, they had a lot of injuries last year. We know how good of a team they can be. They're a team that can win 110 games in a regular 162 game season easily. So it's tough to say if Bauer automatically puts the Blue Jays as the number one spot. But I really do think that even without Bauer, the Blue Jays are still the second best team in that division right now. But with Bauer, at the very least, they're in the conversation. And if there's any kind of injuries or chemistry issues, or even just coming up the gate slowly by the Yankees, then the Blue Jays, especially by bringing in someone like Bauer, he could be that difference maker in getting them that top seed in the AL East, which could be a very big deal this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to there is a lot of good teams in that division, like you mentioned, and whether they get him or not, it's not necessarily going to be um, who's the best team overall, but it's just going to be who has the better year.
Yeah.
And it's funny to kind of say that because that's obviously, oh, who has the better year, it's the better team. But in a situation like this, when you do have a lot of teams that I think are going to be very close, it's just going to be who sometimes maybe has a lucky bounce going their way and who's going to have just kind of a few of those extra wins and losses that are going to make out the actual AL division winner. I don't think there's anyone in this division who is just going to run away with it, which is similar to what we saw last year. The only thing I would say I disagree with is I don't think the Rays are in a rebuild just because they traded Snell. They traded him because he was unhappy and they want to keep a positive morale there. At the end of the day, Blake Snell only played what 7, 8 games for the Rays last year, if I'm not mistaken. He's a great pitcher. I'm not saying that, but to say that the Tampa Bay Rays are in a rebuild process because they traded a guy who played a handful of games for them last year when they're really more in on guys like Josh Fleming. Um, I don't think it's accurate. They still have a very good four pitcher kind of rotation between Fleming, Yarbrough, um, Charlie Morton, and another pitcher I can't remember off the top of my head. They got a couple good prospects for Snell as well. I mean, Patino could come in and instantly be a starter. He already played some games last year, so I just don't think they're in a rebuild. Do I think like as a baseball fan, as a Blue Jays fan, as a Red Sox fan, as whatever it is? Do I look at the Rays roster and think they're going to replicate? No, because I didn't believe in them last year. But at the same time, this just might be a team that just wins games because they know how to win. So I wouldn't count them out necessarily. I don't think they're in a rebuild. That's just my only hesitation to crown the Blue Jays even the number two for sure. But then obviously the Yankees, that's going to be a tough out in its own right. The Red Sox too. They had a rough year last year, but ultimately they still have Jackie Bradley Jr. They still have Xander Bogaerts, who those two guys they picked over Mookie Betts. They have a couple other good rotation players there. Tanner Rowe came on good towards the end too, 3-0. Had I think a 1 ERA or actually under. So I don't think the Red Sox are going to be better. Not saying that, but again, there's no one you can't count out in the AL East. It's a stacked division. There's a lot of good players there, and I think the Rays still too are going to be similar to the Blue Jays. I just think I would pick the Blue Jays personally, but I wouldn't be surprised by the Rays either.
Well, the Rays, they to me, it's and they might. I think they're still going to win games. Again, I think they just overplayed themselves last year, and they took advantage of a couple injuries to the Yankees, a weak start to the year from Boston. Even Toronto took them a little bit to really get their groove going, and they took advantage. And they played very good ball, and they're a very statistically sound team. But again, that Snell trade to me just signals them not being serious. And they lost Charlie Morton. They lost their two best pitchers from last. They got rid of Snell and Charlie Morton. Charlie Morton was someone that he was just a free agent, and they let another team pick him up. So like, to me, Tampa is signaling that they are more focused into their future and not so much to this year. And I don't see how you not retaining your two best pitchers from the year before makes signals that you're going to be the same team as last year. And I think they overachieved last year, which is why I think the Blue Jays are actually going to have a better year because their core is getting better. I'm retaining almost everyone outside of Walker and Shoemaker. But that's where someone like Bauer is very, very important for the Blue Jays, though, because the Blue Jays don't take that next step forward without him. They're not able, unless they're able to replace Walker and Shoemaker with someone of equal skill, which is, unless they bring back Walker, that's not happening, because Bauer is the only person that's on the free agent market that's better than those players. So if they don't bring them in and they still lose out on players like Walker, and their pitching depth chart is where it is right now, then yeah, Tampa can still probably compete for that second spot and beat the Blue Jays because their pitching is just, it's lackluster. But by bringing in someone like Bauer, it's definitely going to push them ahead. And I think that they really do compete with the Yankees for that number one seed for sure this year, because those guys, that young core is great. And if you're bringing in a Cy Young winner into this lineup, then it can only be positive.
Yeah, I mean, not to go too far off the Blue Jays, Charlie Morton, not the Rays' second best pitcher last year. He was the Rays' worst pitcher last year. He was the only Rays pitcher who had an ERA above 4, or I think Lagso did, but he was like 4.06. Morton was 4.78. All the other guys had a sub 4 ERA, and they're all super young too. Josh Fleming was undefeated 5-0 at a sub 3 ERA. So I don't think losing more, like they could replace Morton internally. They're going to. Realistically, Patino alone, the fact that they had similar numbers, Morton and Patino was, what was he, 21 last year and playing in his rookie year? Like he immediately alone replaces Morton and Snell.
Well, like Morton played very, very good in the playoff outside of that one appearance in the World Series.
Yeah,
I think that's where I was kind of leaning towards was his record in the playoffs, where he was that number 2 pitcher for that team in the playoffs.
yeah,
like
but
he didn't allow a run against Houston.
yeah. But I mean, I think any of those other guys could do that too. But going back to the Jays, yeah, if they get Bauer and they also are able to somehow retain Walker, then I would say it for sure puts them in the top 2 in terms of being the top candidates, because that does make their starting 5 very, very solid. And player-wise, in terms of the starting lineup, I would take their starting lineup over the Rays any day. With that being said, though, if they don't bring in Walker, and then the 1 to 5, it's still good, but it still has a couple question marks in terms of the depth of it, especially in a COVID year. And then if they obviously don't bring in Bauer, whole another discussion. But because this is for if they bring in Bauer, yeah, I think regardless, if they only bring in Bauer, they lose Walker, they're for sure going to be a 3. Personally, I would still have them competing with the Yankees for the 1, because I'm not personally big on the Rays roster, but again, like you said, they overplayed last year, and that could easily happen again this
You
year.
never know.
Exactly. It could be a team like the Denver Nuggets in the NBA forever, where everyone doubts them and they always get wins. They don't care. They know how to win games. They know how to not lose, and that can easily be what the Tampa Bay Rays are. They have a lot of good utility players. But yeah, the Blue Jays do too. I mean, they have pretty much everyone in that starting lineup could hit 20 home runs, and then if you add both Bauer and you keep Walker, you have 3 guys there who could be sub 3 ERAs. So like you have potentially the best 1-2-3 punch in the MLB, maybe aside from the Padres, who are the only other option for Bauer. And then you have maybe Nate Pearson, who could also be a great pitcher at your number
Yep.
4. And then you literally have 3 guys who are fighting for that number 5 spot.
Pick 'em.
Robbie Ray, Tanner
Yep.
Roark, and Ross Stripling. So I'd say it puts them in a good spot. Like you hinted to, the Rays lost a couple guys. Blue Jays did not lose anyone. They're looking to bring people in, which is what teams who are looking to contend should be doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, no one else really made huge moves yet either. The Yankees, there's been talks obviously about TJ LeMahieu actually leaving. There hasn't been really any talks about LeMahieu remaining with the Yankees, so that's not something that seems likely to happen.
Not a positive.
Yeah, so they could definitely be on the decline too. Stanton, who knows how his health is? He's healthy, he's not. Same with Judge, both amazing players when they're out there, but they have to be out there. So if the
They have to
Yankees
play.
if the Yankees are hurt and the Rays perform to what the Rays roster looks like, the Blue Jays with Bauer and Walker are the runaway AL East favorites, I would say. And with just Bauer, I would still pick them probably to win the AL East if there's an injury to the Yankees. Otherwise, I'd probably still go New York 1, Toronto close, but I would put them.
It'll be close.
It will be close, though. There's not going to be a runaway. Like I said at the beginning, I do think it's not going to be like the holiday days, like you said, where the Blue Jays are behind by 18 and a half games. Like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and someone like bringing someone like Bauer in, it could be that difference maker. So I really do hope that the Blue Jays are able to do that, because without them, that the pitching staff is not as highly qualified when compared to these other teams that are competing.
Yeah, no, definitely. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below. We definitely want to hear what you guys think of potentially Trevor Bauer, how he affects the Toronto Blue Jays, what that kind of position puts them in. If you think this for sure makes them better than the Rays, the Red Sox, the Orioles, the Yankees, and then obviously what you guys think that puts them in terms of the playoff contention as well.
There you go. Thanks, guys.